Imagine that this was your hero, off to defeat an enemy of immense power, to save your kingdom. Hard, isn't it? Not too long ago, this was the graphical norm in computer games. We've come a long way from little abstract representations to ultra-high fidelity realistic renditions of virtual worlds we enjoy through games. Today, almost everyone either owns or has access to a digital screen of some sort. A pixel, or picture element, is the smallest point on any display device. Millions of pixels are arrayed on the grid to form a much larger image, which is the basis of all digital imagery. With the birth of video gaming, also comes a very special and unique digital art form known as pixel art. So, if all digital images are formed out of pixels, how do we know what is pixel art and what isn't? Pixel artists like to point to two factors that are primary characteristics of pixel art, which are, firstly, the use of a limited color palette, and secondly, the deliberate placement and manipulation of pixels. Techniques which utilizes anti-aliasing, blurring, and gradients are usually not encouraged, as it leaves a lot of the work up to a software algorithm instead of a deliberate artistic choice. Pixel art was originally a technical restraint from generations ago, when computers had limited resources in memory and had much smaller resolutions than the devices we use today. Take Atari's 1972 hit arcade game Pong, for example. A single pixel can represent a ping pong ball, and the players control two bars of pixels which represent paddles. The environment was merely a single dotted vertical row of pixels, which players had to assume was the net. We really had to use our imaginations back then, and every single pixel counted. I like to think of pixels as similar to the DNA of a human genome. Changing a single pixel could result in players vastly interpreting the art differently. With hardware resolutions of the past being so restrictive, any visuals employed in game development were limited by their platforms. Take the Game Boy Advance for example. With only 240 pixels horizontally and 160 pixels vertically to work with, there wasn't much wiggle room to produce elaborate art. Combine that with a limited color palette, you have an era in game development where artists had to really stretch their skills in using a color range to create rich worlds. Interestingly enough, pixel art has seen a resurgence, especially in the indie game development scene, where some indie games can even compare with their AAA cousins and garner their own captive audience and fans. We've narrowed it down to a few specific factors that make developers want to use pixel art, as well as possible factors that keep the appeal of the aesthetic alive in gamers. For technical reasons, pixel art games can be less processing intensive, being a 2D rendered platform, and small sprite file sizes could make a huge difference in terms of storage and download sizes. The abstract nature of pixel art also enables artists to utilize tile sets, limited animation, color alterations, and repetition effectively to economically generate more content. Pixel art also invokes a strong sense of nostalgia, which is a positive connection to a past experience or a yearning to return to a past period of the medium. While pixel art does not necessarily represent an earlier age of gaming, it can be utilized to invoke a connection to a retro era of gaming through colors, art style, or pixel fidelity. The techniques of creating art assets in pixel art are very accessible to non-artists because a certain level of abstraction is allowed in its creation. There are varying levels of complexity in pixel art, and simpler styles are definitely achievable to developers who may not have a traditional art background as an artist. The final factor would be the artistic appeal. The aesthetics of pixel art draw similarities to older, more classical art movements and techniques like pointillism, cubism, minimalism, and neo-impressionism. The abstract nature of pixel art also allows room for gamers to step into the artwork and fill in the blanks themselves, which allows for a deeper level of communication that happens between the game and the players. Moving onwards, what is the next for pixel art, you might ask? And is there a future for this seemingly outdated art technique? As long as there are games and developers, I'm fairly confident that pixel art will continue to evolve. we'll find new ways to fuse pixels and other graphic styles to entertain gamers the world over. And if you're ever in doubt, well, boot up a pixel game and head back to square one.